The magician had just pulled a rabbit from his top hat when he leaned down and whispered, "I have a special trick just for your dad. Is he here?" "Yes," I said, pointing to where Dad stood by the grill, flipping burgers and laughing with our neighbor Mr. Torres. "That's him in the blue shirt." The magician's painted smile twitched slightly. "Does he usually stay for the whole party? He doesn't get called away for emergencies?" "Not on my birthday," I said proudly. "He promised." He even turned his pager off. Dad was chief of surgery at Presbyterian General, and he never turned his pager off. But today was special. The magician nodded slowly, then straightened up and announced to the crowd, "For my next trick, I'll need a very special assistant, the birthday boy himself." Everyone clapped as he led me away from the group, his white-gloved hand on my shoulder, guiding me past the balloon arch my mom had spent 3 hours setting up that morning. We walked toward his equipment cases near the driveway, away from the party noise. "Listen carefully," he said, pulling a manila envelope from inside his cape. It was thick, sealed with red wax, like something from an old movie. "This is part of the grand finale. You need to give this directly to your father during my last trick. Not before, not after. During. Can you do that for me?" "What is it?" I asked, the envelope feeling weirdly heavy in my hands. "It's magic," he said, tapping his wand against the side of his nose. "The most important part of the whole show. Your dad will understand when he sees it, but you have to promise me you'll hand it right to him no matter what." I nodded, though something felt off about how serious his voice had become. He wasn't talking like the goofy magician who'd been making balloon animals 10 minutes ago. We walked back to the party where he continued his show, pulling scarves from nowhere and making coins disappear. But I noticed he kept checking his watch, and his eyes would dart to my dad, then to the driveway like he was measuring the distance to his van, then back to me. The envelope burned in my hands where I held it behind my back. My mom must have noticed me acting strange because she came over during the card tricks. "You okay, sweetie? You look nervous." "I'm part of the grand finale," I said, and she smiled, ruffling my hair before going back to refilling punch bowls. "Ladies and gentlemen," the magician suddenly announced, his voice booming across the yard, "the moment you've all been waiting for, the grand finale." He gestured dramatically, his cape swirling. "I need the birthday boy and his father right here in the center." Dad laughed, putting down his spatula and walking over. "Finally, I get to be part of the show," he joked. He'd been in such a good mood lately, ever since the hospital had renewed his contract with a big raise. "Mom said we might even go to Disney World this summer." "Now," the magician said, locking eyes with me, "present your father with the magic item." I held out the envelope. Dad took it, confused, but still smiling. "What's this? Part of the trick?" "Open it," the magician said, already taking steps backward toward his van. Dad broke the red seal and pulled out the papers. I watched his face change like someone had drained all the color from it. His hands started shaking. The papers fluttered to the ground, and I saw official-looking text and the words, "medical malpractice," in bold letters at the top. "No," Dad whispered. "This can't." "How did you—" "Dr. Morrison," the magician called out, now at his van door, no longer bothering with the performative voice. "You've been officially served in the matter of Pemberton v. Morrison. The Pembertons have been trying to reach you for 3 years." "It was the correct procedure," Dad shouted, his voice cracking. "The imaging showed inflammation on that side. The review board cleared me." "That's for the court to decide now," the magician said, climbing into his van. "You can't hide behind hospital lawyers anymore." Mom ran over, grabbing the papers, reading frantically. "The Pemberton surgery. David, you said this was over. You said the hospital handled it. They stopped taking our calls," the magician added before closing his door. "So they hired me. Process server, at your service." He gave a mock bow through the window and drove away, leaving his rabbit in its cage and his magic props scattered across our lawn. Everyone left, while my parents stood there in shock. Years later, I finally understood why. Mrs. Pemberton had come in for suspected appendicitis with an abscess. During surgery, Dad removed her healthy fallopian tube instead of the one with the abscess, destroying her ability to have children. The Pembertons had been trying to serve him personally, separate from the hospital's case, for 3 years. On my 10th birthday, I'd handed my father the papers that would consume the next 5 years of our lives in legal battles, all because a fake magician told me it was part of the show.